The five ancient inventions that continue to surpass our imagination even today. And this is an example of the Greek fire, uh, wet fire, or what the Greeks called ygropir. This was a fire that was never extinguished, even with water, and it can even be ignited underwater. And the people today still don't know how this was made. It's a secret, lost to history. So the five ancient inventions, despite the major achievements in the fields of science and technology that have taken place in our time, our ancestors continue to confuse us with some of their inventions. Several of them we have not managed to reproduce, others barely, and always with the use of advanced means. Well, in any case, we continue to wonder, how did they do it? And the Epoch Times website mentions some of these inventions as advanced ancient inventions that surpass modern understanding. One, the wet fire or Greek fire, and this is what it looks like here. An illustration manuscript of skylights, there is a representation of Greek fire, as it's called, which is used against the fleet of the apostate Thomas the Slav. The caption above the ship reads, "The fleet of the Romans set for fire to the fleet of the enemies." Let's remember the ancient Greeks and the Byzantines were actually from Rome, okay? Because King Constantine was the emperor of Rome who set up Byzantium, which is today in the area of Turkey. Now, this is what we know as liquid fire, quote unquote, which the Byzantines used from the 7th to the 12th century. And the walls back there are the walls of Constantinople, today Istanbul. And if you've been there, you could see part of those walls still standing. So in reality, this liquid fire was a substance which, passing through pipes, was ejected towards the enemy ships during naval battles, which were engulfed, the ships, of course, being made of wood, were engulfed in flames. The flames that were produced by this substance were impossible to put out, for example, with seawater or any type of water, but needed either sand, urine, or vinegar. Sand, urine, or vinegar. To this day, we do not know what this chemical weapon was made of, while the Byzantines had never revealed the secret of its preparation, except to very specific people, with the result that the knowledge was lost to history. And Mithridatum, antidote for all poisons, we call it the universal antidote for all poisons. It's said to have been discovered by King Mithridates VI of Pontus, 120 to 63 BC, and perfected by the personal physician of Emperor Nero. However, this precious substance remains unknown as Mithridatum. The original formula was lost, as Andrine Mayer, historian of science at Stanford University, explained in 2008 study titled Greek Fire, Poisoned Arrows, Scorpion Bombs, Biological and Chemical Weapons in the Ancient World. However, other historians argue that among the ingredients used to make the universal antidote were opium, chopped vipers, yes, and a combination of small doses of other poisons and antidotes. According to Mayor Sergei Popov, a leading researcher in the field of biological weapons in the Soviet Union, who defected to the US in 1992, had tried to make a modern Mithridatum. Now, Archimedes' ray of light. The Greek mathematician Archimedes, who died 212 BC, managed to set fire to the Roman ships in Syracuse with the help of an invention that became known as the light ray of Archimedes. In practice, the leading mathematician is estimated to have used well-positioned bronze shields, which were placed in such a way as to collect the sun's rays and reflect them, as Mayer explains, onto enemy ships, wooden at the time, which were surrendered to the flames. In other words, he was reflecting the light's rays, positioning them on the bank like a concave mirror reflecting rays, and the apex, the point was to be the ship. The Discovery Channel in the show Mythbusters tried 2004 to repeat this achievement, but ultimately failed and ruled that it is a myth, but it was refuted by MIT students in 2005 who set fire to a ship in San Francisco, faithfully following Archimedes' practices 2,200 years later. The Damascus steel. In medieval times, swords were made from a substance called Damascus steel, which was produced in the Middle East from a raw material known as woots, which made the swords particularly strong and durable. Initially, it was used in 300 BC, and knowledge of it seems to have been suddenly lost around the middle of the 18th century. However, it's noted that a metal so hard was considered impossible to forge before the Industrial Revolution. The secret of Damascus steel was only revealed when it was examined by an electron microscope in a modern laboratory. Finally, it was required to employ nanotechnology for its production, in the sense that specific materials were added during the process, causing a chemical reaction at a quantum level, as the archaeologist K. Chris Hertz explains in an article for About Education. Something similar is estimated to have been done hundreds of years ago, making Damascus steel invincible. Vitrum flexile, the flexible glass. There are a total of 3 ancient references to a substance called vitrum flexile, flexible glass, in an exact translation, without, however, clarifying what it was about. The first story about this discovery is found in Petronius, who died 66 AD. As he writes, the glass craftsmen leave the Emperor Tiberius, 14 to 37 BC, a glass vessel. He asked the emperor to give it back, and then the craftsman threw it down. However, the glass container did not break. It only made a dent, and then the craftsman restored it to its original shape. But Tiberius, fearing that the value of precious metals would decrease, ordered the beheading of the inventor so that the secret of the vitrum flexile would die with him. The story was repeated by Pliny, who died 79 AD, although he argued that, despite its constant repetition, it may not be completely true. About 200 years later, a new version of the story appeared by Dion Cassius, in which the inventor of flexible glass was some kind of magician. According to his version, when the container fell to the ground, it broke, and the magician repaired it with his bare hands. In 2012, the Corning Company presented the flexible willow glass. It had high resistance to the sun and was flexible enough to be rolled, making it particularly useful in the construction of solar panels. Please leave your comments about all this, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.